Films of Lakefield Preparatory School. 1953 to 1962. In 1938, Lakefield old boy, Bill Macrae, 30, brother of Don, 37 and Bubs, 33, future father of sons Jamie, 61, Stuart, 63, Jock, 70 and daughter, Lorna, signed up for an around-the-world sailing adventure. Hired on as a hand and primarily as the cinematographer by the Estonian adventurer, Arto Valter, Bill was given many reels of experimental color film by the Kodak company. His work is included in a documentary about the voyage called Arto, Chasing a Dream. While the ship was in Singapore, World War II broke out and Bill immediately signed up with the Royal Canadian Naval Reserve and was assigned to the first group of 50 Canadian Raleighs for training with the Royal Navy. He filmed throughout the war while on convoy escort duty in the Atlantic. He filmed events at Lakefield starting in the early 1950s through 1962. Those clips follow with narration read directly from Grove Chronicles of the time. The annual inspection was made this year by Commodore K. F. Adams, CD, RCN, the commanding officer, Naval Divisions. The cadets behaved in a magnificent manner throughout the ceremonial and the inspecting officer expressed great pleasure in having been asked to visit the school. Many of the old boys who came up for the occasion, and for the annual cricket match, maintained that it was the best performance that they had seen at the school. Despite the trials and tribulations of school life, the proximity of exams and 101 other distractions, there was a most tremendous effort made on everybody's part to give the new system a fair trial and, at the same time, to try and raise the very high standards of efficiency which succeeding generations of boys have given this corps. That this was achieved was due mainly to the untiring work of CPO Ryder and to the enthusiasm and keenness shown by the platoon leaders. Petty Officer Whitmore of No. 1, P.O. Little of No. 2, P.O. Dale of No. 3, P.O. Rashley of No. 4 and P.O. Hellier of the band, who all gave of their best throughout the year and can have the satisfaction of knowing that they produced a really first-class body of cadets. Perhaps the climax of the whole day was when the cadets broke off their ceremonial and proceeded to classes on board the model corvette, RCSCC St. George, which had been built by the concerted efforts of the whole school under the supervision and enthusiasm of Chief. This ship, some 40 yards long, was built in the lower rink and designed to accommodate 80 cadets and all their training equipment. The cadets marched on in file and proceeded to classes under the leadership of their instructors. When the Commodore had finished his very searching inspection, all hands manned the rail and he was piped off the ship in the best naval style. This innovation, the sailing, which was very well handled by Ryder in the lead boat and Van Buskirk on the shore, and the really glorious weather combined to produce an inspection which very few people will be able to forget. Before closing this brief account of the cadet year, it is worth recording how much more enthusiastic the cadets have become. The Grove Naval Cadet Corps was officially recognized on December 30, 1939. At that time and until 1943, we were the only school in Canada to which authority to have a Sea Cadet Corps had been given. The corps began without uniforms, rifles, or a band. The Mothers Guild generously donated 6 bugles and 2 drums in November 1939, making the organization of a band possible. Rifles were received from Kingston and rifle drill soon played a prominent role in every cadet's training. Blue uniforms and caps, black shoes and socks, white shirts and black ties were received early in May 1940. The Independent School Sailing Championship was held at the Grove School on September 21 and 22. The following schools competed: Appleby College, Hillfield School, Pickering College, Trinity College School, Upper Canada College, and Lakefield Preparatory School. The race was judged by Mr. Bill Macrae, a well-known member of Toronto's Royal Canadian Yacht Club, and Mr. Jack Matthews, a master of the Grove. A full sailing program was organized and began with the crews uniting for lunch on Saturday afternoon at the Lakefield Hotel. Later on, around 3 o'clock, the first race was started. Although there were only light breezes of wind and a slight drizzle of rain, the spirits of the crews were not dampened. Winner of the two-day event was the Appleby College crew from Oakville, sailing through the 4 races for a total of 17.25 points. It was a fairly close race all the way. And after the skies began to clear up, it was evident that Appleby's crew would cross the finish line first, as they did. That night the competitors enjoyed an excellent film shown by Mr. Macrae, about a year and a half spent in sailing around the world. A strong north wind aided 3 excellent races on Sunday. Presentation of the shield and pennants ended a fine weekend. 1958. The afternoon of Saturday, May 24th was sunny, but not hot, perfect weather for the cadets, who had to wear their heavy blue uniforms. Fall in was sounded at 2 o'clock as the guests gradually assembled to watch the proceedings. An impressive drum tattoo then brought the colors into position. The ship's company was inspected by Commodore Pears, Commandant of RMC. The ceremonial drill followed, greatly impressing the assembled parents and guests. CPO Higgs commanded the ship's company and P.O. Dorrington commanded the guard. The corps was then dismissed to form up for individual platoon drill. During this intermission the band provided a very impressive display. 1 and 3 platoons did precision drill, whereas 2 platoon did the more complicated funeral drill. Number 1 platoon was commanded by P.O. Russell, Number 2 platoon by P.O. Dorrington and Number 3 platoon by P.O. Matthews. After the platoon drill the spectators were able to see a demonstration of the various facets of sea cadet training. Commodore Pears inspected the classes and asked penetrating questions of the cadets to determine their knowledge of the subject they specialized in. After the flag was lowered, Commodore Pears presented the Shedden Shield to Russell, P.O. of Number 1 platoon. It had been close competition all year for the shield, but the exceptionally fine drill of Number 1 platoon left no doubt in the cadets' minds as to who deserved the award. Commodore Pears then gave a short address to the ship's company. This has been quite a long day and I think that you have enjoyed it. The fact that I am here today is in the nature of a return visit. Your hockey team played RMC during the winter and we lost the game. At the same time Mr. Smith asked me to come here. I am very happy to have come. It is something special for any naval officer to come and inspect a sea cadet corps as unique as yours. I have inspected various corps before, but never a sea cadet corps, and it is with extreme pride and pleasure I am here to do this duty today. After the classes the corps marched to the lake with chin stays down and no jumpers. The boats were boarded in an orderly fashion and Commodore Pears inspected the fleet anchored in the lake from the deck of the Happy Return. At a signal from the bugler on the dock, the sails of all the boats were simultaneously raised. At a further signal the boats cast off and proceeded to carry out their drill. The wind was very light, making it difficult to keep the boats in line. The canoes passed the saluting base in an orderly fashion under the capable command of QLC Holt. The whaler could not make any headway in the light wind and had to be recalled. The cutters both tossed oars to pass the saluting base and then proceeded farther out into the lake. The boat recall was then given and the boys proceeded to the sunset ceremonies on the lower tennis court. Obituary. 1962 Chronicle. Chief Petty Officer, George Lee, Royal Navy, Distinguished Service Medal, retired, died in February of this year. George Lee came to the school in 1941 to help train the corps and to teach the boys seamanship. He left in 1958. As it turned out this was by no means all that he taught the boys, for Chief Lee was one of the best examples of a God-fearing gentleman that we have seen, and it was not long before his kindliness and devotion to duty were having an influence upon all who knew him. Born and bred near the sea, at Lowestoft in England, Lee joined the Royal Navy as a ship's boy at the age of 15. He served during the Boxer Rebellion in China. He served in the Boer War and in the First World War. On August 17, 1915, George Lee, in command of the HM Smack, named Pet, carrying only a single 3-pounder, sank an enemy submarine. For this action Lee was subsequently decorated with the Distinguished Service Medal. We, at school, never heard much about this gallant action from the chief. He preferred to spin fascinating yarns about mermaids and the life at sea which he loved so well. Even as an old man George Lee had the impish sense of humor of a schoolboy. He never became too old to appreciate the young, and many is the time he has excused some boyish misdemeanor by explaining, "They are only boys, you know, sir." Chief Lee had a very simple creed. As one looks back on his years at the Grove, 3 characteristics seem to have been predominant in his life: his devotion to duty, his faith in God, and his affinity with nature. He loved the country, and, of course, the water. Those who knew George Lee and who remember him paddling across the lake in the path of the setting sun towards his home have a mental picture which will always be cherished. At his funeral the Corps provided a guard and a firing party, who paid a last tribute to a good old sailor and a great friend of the school. May 25, 1958. First 11 versus the Old Boys. Old Boy 73. School 61. This was a most enjoyable day's cricket. Terry Staples opened very soundly for the Old Boys with 14 runs. Mr. Duff Pullen made some nice strokes but needed more time and he was allowed to get played in. Before Mr. Wright was dismissed by Davies he made an invaluable 26. After his dismissal, wickets fell freely until Mr. Rick Hepburn came in to stop the rot. Obviously a very sound batsman, Mr. Hepburn might have made a considerable score if he had put himself in earlier. Much credit must go to Davies for bowling consistently well and for taking 8 wickets for 33 runs. Considering that hardly any of the Old Boys were in practice, and that some of them did not go to bed as early as they might have the night before, they put up a very good show and had a well-earned victory. The Headmaster's Speech. Ladies and gentlemen, honoured guests. It is indeed a great pleasure to welcome you to the Grove on this our 79th prize day. It seems very strange that this should be the 79th prize day, but it is a fact that the school first started in 1879. I would like to welcome our guests of honour, Vice Admiral de Wolf and Mrs. de Wolf particularly at this time. We have now in the school 150 boys. I am happy to say that Mr. Harris will be promoted as head of the English and History department of the school, and I know that it is no secret to you that Mr. Harris is to be married a week today. I know that you will want me to wish him all the happiness in the world. The heads of the various departments of the school will be returning: Mr. Rash Lee, who looks after the French and the Latin, Mr. Matthews the Science, Mr. Brown and Mr. Griffiths the Mathematics, and Captain Howie the Geography. So you can see we have the foundation of an excellent staff. We are happy that Mr. Staples and Mr. Ketchum will be back with us next year, as well as Mrs. Arnott. I refer particularly to Miss Bewley and the Matrons Department, Mrs. Cameron and Mrs. Brown, and to Mrs. Isdell, for the care they have taken of the boys during the past year. Helen Mackenzie. Wife of Reverend Alec W. Mackenzie, 2nd Headmaster 1895 to 1938. Mother of Ken Mackenzie, 3rd Headmaster 1938 to 39. Mother of Winifred Lampman. Grandmother of Cubby Lampman. Great-grandmother of Michael Clark 63. And great-great-grandmother of 8 boys and 2 girl students. Win Lampman, born in 1898, was the eldest daughter of Helen Mackenzie and the Grove's 2nd Headmaster A.W. Mackenzie. Unlike previous headmasters' daughters, who were educated by governesses, Win became Lakefield's first co-ed student, or old girl as she put it, taking classes with the boys, before heading off to Bishop Strachan School in Toronto during her teens. She subsequently spent most of her long life on or near the grounds of Lakefield College School. Win was an important figure in the lives of many Grove students and teachers. Their love and admiration for her is evident in the letters they wrote to her during World War I and the many tributes written for her 90th and 100th birthdays and later, after her death in 2000 at the age of 102. She was a friend, confidant, and inspiration to many. In 2006, Win was made an honorary alumna of the school in recognition of her contributions. I refer also to the prefects to John Davis, and the help they have given the staff. Also to the chiefs, particularly Chief Brown and the work he has done with the cadets and the boats. Another department of the school deserves credit, the business side of it. Mr. Branscombe and his secretary, and also Mrs. Howie, my secretary. 14's football. This year there were so many boys applying for the team that it had to be divided into the thirds and fourths. As a result, Mr. Harris could see who were the better players and get the pick of the crop. Out of 6 games, the 14's won 4. Everyone agrees that it was a good year because there was a lot of team spirit and enthusiasm. The games were good, most of them in beautiful football weather. There was no feeling that the games were interfering with studies. Most of the credit for touchdowns goes to Benson for 3 and Doby and Macrae 2, who scored 2 each. There were a great many other single TDs. Too many to note. Dolden helped tremendously with his rouges and converts. The passing was poor at the start of the season, but showed a great deal of improvement toward the end. Sports Day. John Reynolds. Sports Day was held on October 11, 1958. Bad weather threatened us on several occasions when the events were interrupted twice by showers. A wet track made the afternoon events hazardous. Competition between the 4 houses was keen throughout the day, so that nobody was able to predict the final results, for the teams were very evenly matched. Brian Jones. Master from 1958 to 1983. Brian Jones' passing in the summer of 1983 made us acutely aware of the great contribution he made to our school as a senior master, teacher, coach, tutor, housemaster, but most importantly as a friend. Brian's dedication to peace and to the relief of third world countries were not just words with Brian as they are with so many of us, but genuine concerns that in his own way, he worked towards. How many people were aware that Brian had 3 foster children in underdeveloped countries, or that he had been a big brother for many years? One can say about Brian Jones that in all aspects of his life, uniqueness lay in the fact that there was no disparity between the public values he espoused and the private values he lived by. Pullen House came first, with Lefevre a close second. Following are the results of various events. Senior relay race, won by Lefevre House. Intermediate relay race, won by Mackenzie House. Junior relay race, won by Sheldrake House. Bantam relay race, won by Pullen House. Tug of War final, won by Pullen House. Chronicle 1959. Sports Day. At the Grove by now it is an accepted fact that the weather will be adverse during special days, and true to form, it was cold and cloudy on Sports Day. It was a soul-piercing chill bad enough to dampen the spirit of Mephistopheles. Nevertheless, our athletes were not daunted. The show went on. Competition was not quite as close as usual, and Pullen House won by a surprising margin. Lefevre House came a poor second, and Mackenzie third, to the bitter disappointment of Sheldrake personnel. Here follows the record of events and individual victories. Senior champion, G. Holt. House winner, Pullen. Intermediate champion, S. Macrae. House winner, Pullen. Junior champion, guess who? M. Clare. House winner, Pullen. Bantam champion, P. Rhodia. 1960 Closing Guard of Honor. Our closing took place on June 11th and was not only honored but also enlivened by the presence of the Honorable J. Keeler Mackaye, Lieutenant Governor of the Province of Ontario, who was our guest speaker for the occasion. On arriving at the school, His Honor reviewed a Guard of Honor from RCSCC St. George, under the command of Lieutenant George Brown, Chief Instructor. Later, in the course of his speech, the Lieutenant Governor mentioned first of all the virtues of labor and the certain rewards that spring therefrom. In a country like Canada, especially, hard work is the key that will unlock all doors to our great heritage. But even then we have only begun to tap our riches. For the real riches of this or any other country are things of the mind and spirit. His Honor went on to say that there are 5 beacons lighting the way to these riches: beauty, truth, service, duty and valor. If we keep these before us, and act in a spirit of adventure and in all integrity, we shall have a sure comfort in times of adversity. The large congregation was led in the singing of 2 hymns by the Robe Chapel Choir, with Mr. Stanley Northrop at the organ. The report from the Board of Governors was presented by Mr. Ernest G. Pullen, and the valedictory address was given by Brian Hull, who also presented the House Shield to Geoffrey Holt, leader of Pullen House. Finally, the headmaster, in giving his annual report, spoke to the whole assembly. May I first of all welcome you to the Grove on this joyous occasion of the 81st closing? At present we have more than 160 boys on our rolls, from all parts of Canada, the United States, the West Indies and South America. But the majority come from Toronto and vicinity. This is the largest school we have ever had, and we cannot take any more. I would like to thank the staff, and I believe that our staff is as good as, if not better than, that of any school in Canada. We thank Canon Lewis for his help and guidance in the chapel during the past 6 months. We are happy to have now a full-time chaplain, the Reverend J. Alban Dobson, who has been appointed on the recommendation of Bishop Wilkinson, and fortunately for us he was able to join our staff at Easter time. Mr. Benjamin Whitney will take up his duties as housemaster in Memorial House. Mr. Harris will be returning to Weston to complete his degree, and with the help of some other masters, he is taking a party of boys to Stratford on the 9th and 10th of September so that they may see the plays in this year's Shakespeare Festival. The average mark in each form this year is better than it was last year. This is mainly due to 3 things. 1. The new building and new equipment. 2. The new system of organized study by which no boy for any reason whatsoever can be excused from the study period. 3. The fact that Mr. Matthews, the assistant headmaster, has given so much thought and time to seeing that the proper emphasis is placed on academic work. Our cadet corps has performed in a manner up to the standard of former years. Commodore Finchnoise, who has seen the cadets on 2 previous occasions, said that the corps this year was again excellent. To those graduating, as time goes on you will begin to realize this truth. Your thoughts will change from what did I get out of the Grove, to what can I do for the Grove, and for education as a whole? At the present time there are many old boys who are realizing what a great opportunity they have for service and helping the young to get an education such as one may get at this school. It is through such thoughts as these that the Grove and many other schools have been built, and I know, boys, that you will follow the example of many others who have helped to build the Grove, by doing your part in the years to come. Fourth Annual Independent School Dinghy Races. On September 19th, we welcomed competitors from TCS, Hillfield, Ashbury, Pickering, UCC, and Appleby to take part in the dinghy races. Our only serious competitor was Appleby, and the score shows how close the competition was. The wind on Saturday was strong to heavy, and on Sunday a little lighter. The first race looked promising for us, for we came first, and Appleby fourth, but the next race we were disqualified, and Appleby sailed in first place. They were ahead by 4 points. We won the next 2 races, however, and were ahead by half a point when we stopped for the traditional smorgasbord and sailing pictures on Saturday evening. On Sunday morning, Appleby, with Ricky Brookshill and Cooper, won 2 races, gaining 3½ points. With 1 race left, things looked crucial, and the remaining race would decide all. Well, due to real skill from our team, we won the last race, but that was not enough. UCC and Ashbury helped by putting Appleby back to 4th place. It was all we needed, and with the 3¼ points gained, we managed to defeat Appleby. Our thanks and admiration go to Peter Dunn, George Dobby, and Jamie Macrae, who won the ISDR trophy for us, presented by Mr. Bishop of TCS. First Team Football 1960. It required a few weeks for Norton and Rankin, our co-captains, to drive down the stone and gravel from our young team, and unfortunately we played the strongest opposition during the first 2 weeks. Our young team, there was only 1 player from 6A, improved tremendously during the year and ended the season as a strong, experienced team. Ranker and Malice do not remain with us, but we are going to arrive at the Grove next fall in top condition with opening day of school. Our beastly fury and extreme violence will be guided by our training master into a self-disciplined, sportsmanlike team which will be one of the best in the history of the school. Mr. Matthews, coach. Independent School Dinghy Races Fall 1961. Brookshill recaptures trophy. The 5th annual series of the Independent School Dinghy Races was held at Lakefield September the 16th and 17th, 1961. Appleby College, represented by Ricky Brookshill and his brother Robin, won the series of 7 races for the 4th year. Brookshill had 4 firsts and 3 seconds. Stuart Macrae and Peter Taylor sailing for Lakefield were the nearest competitors with 2 firsts, 3 seconds, and 2 thirds. The weather was perfect for both days. Steady moderate wind on Saturday, and light shifty breezes on Sunday, which tested the crews very well. The race committee of veteran sailors from many points in Ontario commented that the standard of racing had improved greatly from previous years. School standings. Appleby, 47 points. Lakefield, 42½ points. Upper Canada, 28¼ points. Trinity College, 23 points. Hillfield, 19 points. Pickering, 16 points. Ashbury, 15 points. Race Committee. Bill Macrae, Royal Canadian Yacht Club. Gary McCracken, Kingston Yacht Club. Fred Brookshill, Royal Canadian Yacht Club. Ernie Beale, Royal Hamilton Yacht Club. Phil Bishop, Royal Ocean Racing Club. Jack Matthews, Stony Lake Yacht Club. Michael Townsend, Royal Ocean Racing Club. The school sailing races at the end of the summer term were won by James Howie with Stuart Macrae as runner-up. Sports Day, Fall, 1961. The annual sports were held on a perfect autumn day, and a large crowd of parents and friends made an appreciative audience. Senior event results. Mackenzie, 5 wins, Pullen, 5 wins, Sheldrake, 3 wins. Intermediate event results. Mackenzie, 1 win, Pullen, 1 win, Sheldrake, 6 wins, Lefevre, 3 wins. First football team. The perennial question asked any coach is, which is the best team you have ever coached? I thought the question could be finally answered this year. 10 years ago our firsts usually played the second teams from the Peterborough Collegiates and lost. This year we played an overwhelmed Adam Scott and St. Peter's seniors, scoring 91 points to 0. This coupled with the 50-6 TCS victory put us up in the clouds and it was thought we were tops. Then the roof fell in and the firsts dropped 2 in a row, to Hillfield and to PCVS. The Red Machine had fallen off its pedestal. However, the season's football reached a thrilling and satisfying end with the Appleby and the Old Boys games. Although we lost to Appleby, we went down fighting and it wasn't until the last play that the team could be called out. The Old Boys game, which is reported elsewhere in this chronicle, was a thriller from start to finish and ended in a 19-all tie. The captain and most valuable player was Rankin, while Dolden was vice-captain. New colours were awarded to Dewar, Embury, Hunter 1, Playfair 1, Pullen and Tate. Old colours included Rankin, Bishop and Dolden. Jack Matthews 1961. Royal Canadian Sea Cadet Corps, St. George. The Corps, this year, had a complement of 112 and we were glad to be able to welcome to our small group of officers the Reverend John Dobson as our Padre and Dr. Hugh Gassel as our medical officer. The boys, as usual, were put in charge of platoons and carried out as much of the training as possible. These boys deserve much credit for their perseverance and keenness in the handling of their platoons. In the course of the year the Corps figured in several parades outside the school. They were present at the Armistice Day parade in the village. Lieutenant Brown took the parade and turned out a very smart guard. Colonel Norman Smith, the headmaster's brother, made a very good address on this occasion and took the salute. Another occasion, and a melancholy one, was when we provided a guard at Chief Lee's funeral, where a volley was fired in respectful farewell to our good old friend. We provided a guard and band for the opening of the new Legion Hall on March 10th. And finally, we had our usual summer term church parade, this year attending St. John's, Peterborough. The training culminated with the annual inspection at which Commodore D.W. Pears, DSC, RCN officiated for the second time, his prior visit being in 1958. In view of the fact that this was the hottest day in memory as far as inspections go, it was surprising and creditable that nobody passed out. Commodore Pears was mercifully short in his inspection of the cadets on parade, and he seemed pleased with what he saw. The sunset ceremony was a fitting conclusion to the day. The guard fired their feu de joie with precision and the slow march of guard and band was well done. The Shed and Shield, coveted trophy for the most efficient platoon in all phases of training throughout the year, was awarded to No. 3 Platoon. P.O. Peter Sterling, the platoon commander, received the award from Commodore Pears after the flag had been lowered. Congratulations to C.P.O. Wyand on his smartness and efficiency as chief cadet, to P.O. Peter Sterling on his good platoon. A platoon is merely a reflection of the platoon commander, and to P.O. Anthony Pullen on his very good band. May I take this opportunity of thanking my officers for their hard work and loyal support throughout the year. W. E. Rashley, Commanding Officer. Now, last but not least, may I thank the prefects and the senior boys, who are not coming back, for their help this year. This is the last official function of the school year and we say goodbye, not with sadness but with feeling of pride. We are going to watch your future with great interest and I wish you Godspeed in your efforts. My closing message to you will be the message from Winston Churchill, when he said, "I say that the flame of Christian ethics is still our highest guide. To guard and cherish it is our first interest both spiritually and materially. The fulfillment of spiritual duty in our daily life is vital to our survival. Only by bringing it into perfect application can we hope to solve for ourselves the problems of this world, and not of this world alone." From the Grove Chronicle tribute to the prefects 1943. Andy's really a bit on the shy side. It's a good fault. You would never think it to hear him argue the merits of Sil Apps versus Toe Blake and Dave Schreiner. Get yourself a good seat about a mile away where you can hear well, and listen to the names fly quick and fast, hockey names, of course. Andy should know his hockey, for he made a dandy center and is a mighty smooth stick handler. In the last and crucial game with TCS, which was played on Port Hope ice, with the score tied and a few minutes to go, Andy was the wizard who got the winning goal. Small wonder that he won the Lefevre Cup as the most valuable player in hockey. And in 1941 he won the Lefevre Cup in cricket for the same reason. He was a bowler and was the captain of the cricket team this year. He was a halfback in rugby, and in the tennis finals he was a runner-up. This accounts for the fact he was a three-colour man this year, as he was last. Grove Chronicle 2003. Mr. Harris was a student at the Grove from 1938 to 1942, and it was the combination of his love for Lakefield and his passion for hockey that prompted former headmaster G. Winder Smith to invite him to return as a junior master in 1952. In 1957 he was asked to return as a teacher and a coach, which was the start of his lasting and very dedicated career with LCS. Mr. Harris has been described as a startling combination of gentleman and fierce competitor. The legacy Mr. Harris left behind at the Grove goes beyond the rink. He was an active and integral member of the English department, and a patron of the LCS drama program, directing countless school productions during his time here. Andy Harris will always be remembered for the remarkable impact he left on the many lives he touched while he was a part of our community. Andy Harris retired from Lakefield in 1991, although he did stay on as a coach for another year. He continued to be an active member of the Grove community up until his death in the fall of 2001. His passing marked the loss of a friend for many, and a mentor for all.